Good evening. I'm Rohit Sharma and welcome to Desi from DC, coming to you every night from heart of Washington. This is where America's power corridor meets India's prime time to break down the political, economic, and global stories that shape both nations live from Washington, DC. From Capitol Hill to Raisana Hill, we connect the dots between what happens here in Washington and how it echoes back home in India. We begin tonight with the big stories of the day. National Guard shooting, suspects has CIA links. Putin accepts Trump's Ukraine peace framework. India furious over US report for praising Pakistan. America supports Israel's Gaza division plan. And India tariffs makes Thanksgiving more expensive for American families. Now we begin with the new developments in the shooting of the two National Guard members in Washington, D.C., a case that has escalated into a national debate on immigration, security, and America's obligation to its former allies. The suspect, has now been identified as Ramanullah Lakhanwal, an Afghan national who arrived in the United States in 2021 under a program created after the US withdrawal from Afghanistan. The Biden administration implemented the program to resettle Afghans who assisted the United States during the war. And now we're learning more about how he was brought and why he was here. According to CIA Director John Ratcliffe, Lakhanwal was allowed entry because of his prior work with the US government, including CIA, as a member partner of a force in Kandahar. He was granted asylum earlier this year in April, a decision approved during the Trump administration. The shooting took place last afternoon near Washington's Farragut West metro station. Today, an American flag and small memorial of flowers were placed at the scene, a quiet acknowledgement of the violence that unfolded there. The victims, both National Guard members, remain in critical condition. 20-year-old Sarah Backstrom, who joined the Guard service in June 2023, is fighting for her life. According to the New York Times, her father says he does not believe she will recover, describing her injuries as fatal in nature. The second victim, Sergeant Andrew Wolf, who's aged 24, joined the National Guard in 2019. He also remains in critical condition tonight. Meanwhile, last night, former President Trump addressed the situation directly from Mar-a-Lago, and he pointed to the suspect's immigration pathway as evidence, he said, of failed vetting, and vowed to impose what he called immediate corrective action. And today, the Trump administration announced first such step. The Trump administration announced today that the government will now review green cards issued over the last 4 years to individuals from 19 countries, including Afghanistan, Burma, Chad, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Yemen, and Venezuela. Officials say the review is aimed at identifying cases that may require additional security verification. Questions continue to mount about the suspect's background, the vetting process that brought him to the United States, and the condition of the two young service members whose lives were changed in an instant. We'll continue to follow all developments closely and bring you the latest. A single sentence in a 675-page US Congressional report has triggered a full-blown diplomatic storm between Washington and New Delhi. One line, tucked casually into the appendix, claims Pakistan's military success over India. You heard that right. Pakistan's military success over India during the May War, or as some people call it, the 4-day clash. Why this throwaway line has India furious, and what it really tells us about America's anxieties with China. Because this isn't about South Asia alone. This same report, the annual assessment of the US-China Economic and Security Review Commission, goes on to say that Pakistan's so-called performance showcased Chinese weaponry. The report conveniently leaves out the commission relies heavily on open source media, and during the 88-hour conflict, India's international communication was limited. So what you see in the report is not ground truth. It is a mirror of global reporting, not battlefield reality. And the real focus of the document isn't India at all. It is China, specifically how Beijing is leveraging conflict narratives to sell weapons. Now, French intelligence even claims China launched an AI-driven disinformation campaign, circulating fabricated images of Indian Rafale debris allegedly shot down by the Chinese systems, all to boost global interest in China's J-35 fighter jet. But look beyond the headline-grabbing sentence, and a different picture emerges, one of American vulnerability. A Chinese scholar based in Washington, D.C., Rush Doshi, says the turning point was the October Busan summit, the moment Washington quietly acknowledged Beijing as a geopolitical equal. Why? Because Trump's 140% tariff hike did not weaken China. It actually strengthened it and left America scrambling. The Commission now recommends creating a consolidated economic statecraft entity, a new undersea cable security initiative, tighter tech controls, and an urgent push to rebuild critical capabilities. All while issuing a blunt warning: the United States still does not have a consistent China strategy. Meanwhile, Beijing has spent years building its strength, and Trump, critics say, has spent months damaging relationships that took 2.5 decades to build, especially with important partners like India. So that one line on Pakistan, it's not an error, it's a symptom of Washington's casual treatment of its allies at precisely the moment it needs them the most. Because as the Commission itself admits, America's greatest advantage over China is its network of trusted partners. The question is no longer whether India will stand with the United States. The real question is, will President Trump stop alienating allies before Washington runs out of them? As Gaza begins recovery from conflict, the US backs a plan dividing the territory into two zones. Rebuilding would focus on a green zone, one under Israel and international control, while Hamas-held areas would see displaced residents moved to a container-style housing. Now, critics warn of humanitarian and political risks, with the reconstruction costs running into tens of billions of dollars and years of work ahead. Here's a report. As Gaza continues to recover from devastating conflict, the international community faces complex challenges around reconstruction and governance. Recent reports indicate that the United States has expressed support for a plan that would divide Gaza into two distinct zones, a move that could have lasting implications for the region. Under the proposed plan, portions of Gaza would be designated as the so-called Green Zone, under the control of Israel and international actors. This area would be prioritized for rebuilding efforts, including housing, infrastructure, and essential services. Conversely, large areas including Gaza City and central regions still under the control of Hamas would remain excluded from these reconstruction initiatives. Instead, displaced residents in these areas may be relocated to newly constructed alternative safe communities consisting of container-style housing complexes designed to accommodate thousands of people. Critics have raised concerns about the feasibility and humanitarian implications of this approach. With much of Gaza's infrastructure, water, electricity, and sanitation severely damaged or destroyed, questions remain about how these new communities would be sustained in the long term. Humanitarian organizations emphasize the importance of impartial aid distribution, cautioning that assistance must reach all displaced individuals regardless of political or territorial divisions. Estimates from the United Nations suggest that rebuilding Gaza will require tens of billions of dollars and could take years, if not decades. The cost and scale of this effort are unprecedented, and the challenges are compounded by political complexities on the ground. Many observers worry that dividing Gaza into control zones could solidify fragmentation and limit the territory's ability to function as a unified Palestinian area. Such a partition could have profound consequences for the social and political fabric of the region. Proponents argue that the plan could provide security and stability by isolating militant groups and enabling focused reconstruction efforts in designated areas. The international community now faces the delicate task of balancing humanitarian needs with political realities, striving to ensure that reconstruction efforts promote dignity, stability, and long-term peace. As this plan unfolds, its impact on the people of Gaza, displaced families seeking homes, communities, rebuilding their lives, will be closely watched by governments, aid agencies, and citizens worldwide. Rohit Sharma for India Today Global. After nearly 4 years of devastating conflict, a potential breakthrough, Russian President Vladimir Putin now says that Moscow is ready for serious talks on a US-backed peace plan to end the war in Ukraine. The top story tonight, the diplomatic push that could finally bring peace to Eastern Europe and the major obstacles still standing in the way. Speaking Thursday in Kazakhstan, Putin said the peace plan developed through the US-Ukraine negotiations could be the basis for future agreements. His first public comment since intensive diplomacy began last week. The initial 28-point plan, the US-Russia plan, heavily favored Moscow, sparking panic in Ukraine and other European nations. Ukraine quickly pushed back, adding counter-proposals that were discussed in Geneva with Secretary of State Marco Rubio. The revised draft, now down to 19 key points, has Ukraine's tentative backing. The ball is now in Russia's court. But there's a major catch. Putin made clear Thursday that fighting stops only when Ukrainian troops withdraw from the eastern Donbas region. And if they don't, Russia will take it by force. Moscow's Deputy Foreign Minister warned there will be no concessions on key issues. The Kremlin is also pumping the brakes. Putin's press secretary told reporters it is too early to celebrate, suggesting significant gaps remain between the two sides and their positions. After 4 years of bloodshed, hundreds of thousands of lives lost, and millions displaced, the world is watching. Can Trump broker the peace deal that has eluded global leaders since 2022? As US President Donald Trump has officially disinvited South Africa from the 2026 G20 summit in Miami, citing debunked claims of white farmer genocide. The move escalates tension after US boycotted last month's Johannesburg summit, threatening trade and aid. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa rejects the allegations, insisting his country will remain an active G20 member. Here's a report.
US President Donald Trump has now escalated his spat with South Africa. He's officially disinvited the country from the 2026 G20 summit in Miami. Last month, Trump made waves when he announced he wouldn't attend the G20 in Johannesburg. Now he's taken the next step, claiming South Africa is not a country worthy of membership anymore, and vowing to halt all US payments and subsidies immediately. Trump's reasoning? He alleges that white farmers in South Africa are facing genocide, a claim widely debunked by experts. On social media, he accused the South African government of killing white people and criticized the media for ignoring the situation. His inner circle, including Elon Musk, has amplified these claims, but the numbers tell a starkly different story. Of over 26,000 murders in South Africa in 2024, only a handful occurred on farms, and most were linked to robbery, not racial targeting. The US boycott of the Johannesburg summit wasn't subtle. No senior officials attended, and Trump publicly condemned South Africa for refusing to hand over the G20 gavel to a US representative. In May, Trump even offered refugee status to white South Africans, while continuing to accuse the government of systematic human rights abuses. Claims strongly rejected by President Cyril Ramaphosa, who called the allegations regrettable and stressed. There is just no genocide in South Africa. The disinvitation may have bigger strategic angle. Reports suggest the US is eyeing Poland as a potential replacement for South Africa at the 2026 G20, citing ideological alignment with the Trump administration. Yet, any such move would require consensus among all G20 members. At most, experts predict the US can deny visas to South African officials, effectively sidelining them from the Miami summit. Trade stakes add another layer of tension. The US is South Africa's second largest trading partner, with bilateral trade totaling $26.2 billion in 2024, alongside over $581 million in US assistance. Trump's punitive measures threaten this vital economic relationship, while the South African government maintains it will continue participating in the G20 as a full, active, and constructive member. Trump disinvitation highlights a deeper pattern: misinformation, unilateral action, and a willingness to isolate nations over disputed claims. South Africa, a democratic nation shaped by the legacy of apartheid and led by Cyril Ramaphosa, is standing firm. Their absence is their loss, Ramaphosa said of US officials skipping the Johannesburg summit. The big question remains: is Trump's hardline stance against South Africa a principled defense of human rights, or just another political maneuver to rile his base and rewrite global alliances? With Rishika Radhya, Bureau Report, India Today Global.
A controversial podcast appearance has set social media on fire. And this time it's about Vice President JD Vance, his wife Usha, and a viral hug with Erika Kirk, the widow of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Our top story tonight: Joy Reid's provocative comments about race, religion, and the future of MAGA politics in 2028. Former MSNBC host Joy Reid made waves on the I Have Had It podcast, suggesting that Vance might distance himself from his Indian American wife, Hindu American wife, Usha, ahead of a 2028 presidential run. Reid claimed that some hardline MAGA supporters would not accept a brown Hindu First Lady, sparking immediate backlash online. Reid did not hold back, saying, and I quote, "They can't have the successor to MAGA be the guy with the brown Hindu wife." She even speculated that Vance could pursue Erika Kirk instead. Comments that have been called everything from political commentary to deeply offensive.
Motivates them, so they can't have the successor to MAGA be the guy with the brown Hindu wife. They're also Christian nationalists. That ain't gonna work. That's why he's throwing his wife under the bus. Poor Usha, or she's in on it, right? And she's playing.
The controversy centers around now viral moment from October when Erika Kirk and JD Vance shared an emotional hug at the Turning Point USA event just weeks after her husband Charlie was tragically killed during a speech at Utah Valley University in September. The internet did what it does best, analyzed every second of that hug. Podcast hosts described it as playing slap and tickle, with one saying she is like in her Tammy Faye era, referring to the prolonged, affectionate nature of the embrace. In an interview with former Fox News host Megyn Kelly, she explained simply, "My love language is touch." She offered free hugs to anyone criticizing her, emphasizing that the gesture was just warmth and support during a very difficult time. As 2028 approaches, all eyes will be on how the Vances navigate these controversies and whether the MAGA base's acceptance of diverse leadership will truly be tested. For now, one thing's clear: this story isn't going anywhere anytime soon. London's Museum of Architecture has unveiled its 9th annual Gingerbread City exhibition, featuring 50 architect-designed gingerbread buildings inspired by the capital's landmarks. Highlights include a playful licorice-themed parliament with a gummy bear, Rachel Reeves, delivering a red budget. The exhibition celebrating play in urban life opens to the public this Saturday and runs until January 4, 2026. Let's have a quick look before we wrap up. And that wraps up tonight's edition of Desi from DC. This is Rohit Sharma for India Today and India Today Global. And if you're watching us on India Today Global, do not forget to hit the like and subscribe button before you leave. Stay tuned, stay informed, and as always, stay curious. Thank you, and have a good night.